Hey, welcome back to our second video on simplifying square roots. Again, a typical important skill that's useful for solving quadratic equations and simplifying their answers, as well as future lessons in like exponentials and stuff like that too. So we'll just keep going here. I'm not going to do necessarily all these problems, I think, because I think you'll get the idea. But we'll do at least several more here. So, all right, square root of 28, all right, again, is not a perfect square. And in fact, we already simplified this one, didn't we? We wrote it right up here as 2 root 7. So there's one that we already did. You can check the previous video to see that one. I guess we already did this one too. Didn't we? No, we didn't do root 50. We did, yeah, 20. Okay, anyway. All right, let's look at these other ones here. So again, square root of 18. Again, think about what perfect squares divide 18. Okay, don't just guess any two numbers. Again, don't just guess like root 3 times 6. Yes, that's true, but it's not helpful because the square root of 3 or the square root of 6 can't really be done, right? They're not perfect squares. So you really want to pick your numbers here to break this down, looking to divide by perfect squares. So for example, 18 divides by 9. So it would be 2 times 9, which then would equal root 2 times root 9, which is root 2 times 3. Or in other words, 3 root 2. All right, root 44 would be the square root of 4 times 11, which is equal to the square root of 4 times the square root of 11, which is 2 times the square root of 11. Okay, 169, that is a perfect square. It is just 13. 75, okay, think about, so why don't you pause the video here, look back up at your list of perfect squares, and determine what perfect squares divide 75 evenly. Okay, hopefully you figured that out. The answer is 25 is one of the perfect squares that divide 75 evenly. So then we get root 25 times 3, like so, which will equal, and now why don't you go ahead and finish the problem. Pause the video and finish the problem. All right, so thanks for unpausing here. You should have gotten then root 25 times root 3 like this, and go ahead then and say 5 square root of 3. Many times you'll see people start off by just going ahead and saying it's root 25 times root 3 like this, and then writing 5 root 3. So if you feel comfortable in just going to this step, feel free. All right, more square roots. So square root of 128. All right, so here we have a couple options. So for example, it's not necessarily clear looking at this what perfect square divides this, but someone might say, oh, this is divisible by 4. And so it would be square root of 4 times the square root of 32, for example, which then gives us 2 times the square root of 32. And you might say, aha, done, moving on, right? But no, there's more, okay? The square root of 32 can still be simplified, and that's the key phrase here, as much as possible. We want to simplify it. So you always want to check the square root, what's left in the square root there, the number in the square root, called the radicand, to see if there's more simplification that can be done. And the answer is yes. 32 can still be divided by 4. It's 4 times 8, which then gives us 2 times the square root of 8, which is 4 square root of 8. But wait, there's more, because 8 can also be divided by 4. So it's 4 times square root of 4 times the square root of 2, which gives us 4 times 2 times the square root of 2, which gives us 8 square root of 2. And voila, there's your final answer. Okay? Now, this seems like a lot of work, right? Is there any way to make it faster? The answer is yes. Okay? When you look to simplify that square root, don't always just settle for the first perfect square that you find that divides it. For example here, the square root of 128 is 4 times 32, but it's also 64 times 2. Okay, oh sorry, it's the square root of 2. Root 64 times root 2. Okay, now why is that helpful? Well, because what's the square root of 64? It's 8. And then we have the root 2. So you see, choosing your square roots that you pull out wisely, trying to pick the biggest perfect square that divides it, will help you finish faster, right? But sometimes this is all you can find, and that's okay. You'll just take more steps in order to get to your same spot, okay? Let's do one more here. The square root of 288, All right, so this is, again, you could divide by 4, but I see it's divisible by 144 here. So, and 144 is 12 squared, so it's going to be 12 times the square root of 2. Okay, and stop there. All right, we'll see you guys in the next video with a few more practice problems.